Hello everyone, myself Shubham Ashokrao Rathod. Today we are participating in national workshop on CSR UGC, NET, JRF and LS preparation in life science. I am very thankful of Dr. Pitambar Humne sir, Dr. Deepak Koche sir and all the respected founder members of Botany for You online platform. In previous lecture, we have discussed about the protein sorting and targeting of secretory proteins. Today we are going to discuss the protein sorting and targeting of non-secretory or cytosolic protein. This pathway also known as non-secretory pathway. So this is my brief introduction. As we have discussed in previous lecture, the basically protein sorting have two branches, that is endoplasmic reticulum mediated sorting, also known as secretory pathway, and another one is cytosol mediated sorting, known as non-secretory pathway. So what is the basic difference in these two pathways of the protein sorting? In ER mediated sorting, the protein synthesis takes place in endoplasmic reticulum, while the proteins are targeted into various organelles of the eukaryotic cells in the folded form through the vesicle formation. While organelle like endoplasmic reticulum, lysosome, Golgi body, plasma membrane, they are transfer such type of proteins or follow this pathway. While in cytosol mediated sorting or non-secretory pathway, in this the protein synthesis takes place in cytoplasm or cytosol, where the proteins are targeted into various organelles in linear or nascent form, that is the unfolded state of the protein. So organelles having double membrane such as mitochondria, chloroplast, nucleus, even single membrane organelle, that is peroxisome, which also follow this pathway. Even certain gram negative bacteria and gram positive bacteria, gram negative bacteria and the pathogenic bacteria, they also follow such type of protein sorting. So let's start. As we have discussed, in non-secretory protein pathway, so these components are involved, that is cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast and peroxisome. In plant, that is called as the glyoxysome. So what is non-secretory proteins or cytosolic pathway of protein targeting? Non-secretory proteins are synthesized in cytoplasm. The translocation of such type of proteins takes place always after the translation, that is the post-translationally. While proteins are targeted in nascent form, that is the unfolded state, and cytosolic HSP17s are responsible for maintaining this unfolded state, because these HSP are involved in the prevention of the misfolding of that particular protein. The non-secretory proteins acquire their proper folded state at destination or the site of action. At the destination, they become active and perform their function. All the secretory proteins having the destination targeting sequence, that is consist of the continuous chain of the amino acid which is located in that particular protein, which act as an address of the destination and helps to translocation. All the double membrane organelle such as mitochondria, chloroplast, nucleus and exceptionally peroxisome. Even bacteria also follow this pathway. So today we have to discuss the protein translocation in bacteria, mitochondria, chloroplast, nucleus and the peroxisome. So let's start with the protein translocation of the bacteria. As we know, the gram-negative bacteria having the two membranes, that is outer membrane and another one, it is the inner membrane. There is an intermembranous space called as the periplasm. So this is the intermembrane space which is consist of the peptidoglycan layer and also having the certain proteins, they give rise to cell wall of this bacteria. The protein present in the periplasm play function of sensing and importing the extracellular molecules and also assemble and maintain the structural integrity of the cell wall. So this is the uh, structure of the molecular structure of the uh, membranes of the uh, gram negative bacteria. So this having the cytoplasm. So this is the cytoplasm. This is the inner membrane. This is the periplasmic space. And this is the outer membrane. So you can see here there are various different kinds of proteins are present there, such as certain proteins are uh, embedded in the inner membrane, certain proteins are embedded in the outer membrane, or certain proteins are uh, have contact with the periplasmic space. So such type of proteins are present in the inner membrane and outer membrane or in the uh, periplasmic proteins. So the protein synthesized in the cytosol and translocated in the unfolded state in the periplasmic space. So this is the newly synthesized protein. Newly synthesized protein. So how this protein can translocated into the periplasmic space? So we have to study the mechanism of the protein translocation. So as we have discussed here, so there is a one translocon is there which have the main role in the translocation of such a kind of uh, protein translocation. So this protein translocation, this is the inner which are embedded in the inner membrane. So this is the embedded in the inner membrane. So this translocon, it is consist of the various subunit such as sec-Y, sec-E and sec-G. In the cytoplasmic phase of this translocon having the different ATP bounded sec-A subunit. So sec-A subunit, they playing a main role in the translocation of the protein. So you can see, so this is the sec-A subunit. So with the ATP hydrolysis, with the ATP hydrolysis, their catalytic domain or conformational change occur in this sec-A subunit. So you can see here this sec-A having such conformational change like this. So So there is a one protein which is present in the cytoplasm. So they are come contact with this sec A subunit. So sec A subunit, and when the contact is maintained in between the sec A and the newly synthesized protein, so this sec A helps to the translocation of the protein, and in the translocation the proteins is get folded. So in periplasmic space the protein undergoes the proper folding. In periplasmic space there is a favorable environment is present which is required for the disulfide bond formation. So due to this, in periplasmic space, the nascent prom can acquire their proper folded state and perform their function. While some bacteria possess the specialized translocon system, protein can also transported across the both membrane out of the cell. Such type of protein translocation shown by the pathogenic bacteria, which secretes the specific proteins to colonize on the host tissue and evade the host defense system. For instance, the cholera toxin, tetanus toxin, these are the toxins which is secreted by the pathogenic bacteria. And also the pili formation also uh, takes place in the pathogenic bacterial infection. So pathogenic bacteria follows the various operating system. They are divided into type 1, then type 2 and type 3. Out of this type 1 and type 2 proteins, they follow the simple mechanism in which the substrate protein is translocated across the inner membrane into periplasmic space where they acquired their folded state by forming the disulfide bond. Then these folded protein are translocated from the periplasmic space into across the outer membrane. So let's discuss about the type 3 mechanism of the protein transportation. So certain pathogenic bacteria can inject the protein into animal cell via pili formation. So pili or the type 3 apparatus, it is the proteinaceous which is made up of the proteins and forms the needle-like structure which is consist of more about the 20 different proteins. For example, Yersinia pestis, it is the virulent pathogenic bacteria cause the bubonic plague, which is the deadliest disease which disable the host microphage cells. This pili protein is homologous to the bacterial flagellum. The structure of the pilus, it spans the three membranes, that is inner membrane of the bacteria, outer membrane of the bacteria, and the plasma membrane of the host cell. So this pili providing the connection between the bacterial cytoplasm and cytoplasm of the targeted host cell. So you can see here the beautiful structure of the pili formed by the pathogenic bacteria. So you can see this is the rod shaped bacteria is having the so many different uh, flagella is there. So these are the flagella, and this is the host cell, and in between the one pili formation is present which is developed by this particular pathogenic bacteria, and through this pathogenic bacteria infected this host cell. So this is the uh, actual structure of the pili. So this is the pili, also known as the type 3 apparatus. So through this pili, this bacteria can transport the pathogenic proteins, uh, these pathogenic proteins into the host cell. So you can see here this pili forms the or spans the three membranes. So first is the first membrane, it is the inner membrane, then outer membrane of the pathogenic bacteria, outer membrane, and the plasma membrane of host, and the membrane of host. So one end of this needle-like structure, which is opens in the cytoplasm of the pathogenic bacteria, and one another end is open into the cytoplasm of host cell. So this pili maintain the one contact system in between the cytoplasm of the bacteria and the host cell. So through this pili, this protein can transport the certain proteins to this particular uh, type 3 apparatus. So you can see this is the inner membrane of the uh, gram negative bacteria or the pathogenic bacteria. This is the outer membrane. This is the periplasmic space is there. So this is the periplasmic space, and in this periplasmic cell such a needle like structure is developed. So in this needle like structure you can see in the membrane there is a ring like structure is there. So it is the ring like structure. So ringed like structure, which is similar to the base protein of the base protein of flagella. And in between this ring like structure are connected with the needle like structure that is called as the actual pili, also known as the needle. So you can see here this is the cytoplasmic contact by means of this pili or type 3 apparatus. So you can see when the uh, protein is synthesized in the plasma membrane or the in the cytosol of the bacteria, so it get acquired their folded state. So in between this folded state this protein can transfer it into this pili, and through this pili it reaches to the cytoplasm of the host cell. So cytoplasm of host cell, and then this protein can perform their function. Okay, so this is the protein translocation across the uh, bacterial cell into the extracellular space of the or the host cell. So let's start the protein targeting in the mitochondria. So this is the schematic structure of the mitochondria. This having the outer membrane, then inner membrane. In between this outer membrane and inner membrane there is a intermembranous space. This inner membrane encloses the matrix inside it. In this matrix there is a extra chromosomal DNA and ribosome. assembly also present there. So these mitochondria can synthesize their own proteins, but maximum proteins which are required in the mitochondria, which is synthesized by the nuclear genome. So that's why we called it as the semi-autonomous, because they are somewhat dependent for the protein on the nuclear genome. So mitochondria contain many proteins, out of which 13 proteins are encoded by the mitochondrial genome, but hundreds of proteins were encoded by the nuclear genome. It is synthesized in the cytosol and then imported into the mitochondria. For example, the F subunit of the ATP synthase. So you can see here, these are there is the F1 particle of the ATP synthase. So this F1 particle of the ATP synthase, it is the encoded by the nuclear genome and synthesized in the cytosol and imported into the matrix. Then second example, it is the cytochrome C. So this cytochrome C, which is present in this intermembranous space, it is also proteinaceous molecule which is present in the intermembrane space. So such type of different proteins which are synthesized in the cytosol and imported into the mitochondria. Okay, so you can see here the microscopic structure of the mitochondria in. So you can see here the cristae of the mitochondria. So let us start. So there are the membranes of the mitochondria. So mitochondria, it is the double membrane structure. So it is the inner membrane. And this is the outer membrane. In between this inner membrane and outer membrane, there is a intermembranous space. Okay, so this space having the you know very well, this having the proton gradient as a result of electron transfer system. So in inner membrane space, there is a proton gradient is present, while this outer membrane having the certain integral proteins, some of them which are act as a receptor for the importing protein, and certain translocons are there. So these translocons are known as the TOM complex. So this is the TOM complex and TIM complex. So TOM stands for the translocon of outer membrane of the mitochondria. So then TIM is stands for translocon of inner membrane of mitochondria. So you can see here, while the protein which to be inserted into the matrix or the mitochondria, they contain certain matrix localizing sequence, or also known as the N-terminal leader sequence. So you can see here N-terminal leader sequence is there. So this is the leader sequence, also known as the pre-sequence, which is present on the N-terminal of this protein. Okay, so this N-terminal, which is consist of the 20 to 80 positively charged amino acid, that is lysine and arginine. So you can see here, after the protein synthesis, this polypeptide chain is released into the cytoplasm, and after the releasing this polypeptide chain, the HSP17, that is the cytosolic HSP17, which are homologous to the binding immunoglobulin proteins of the endoplasmic reticulum lumen. So these cytoplasmic HSP17 are bounded on this polypeptide chain, and they keep this polypeptide chain in the unfolded state and prevent them from the misfolding. Then this N-terminal pre-sequence is recognized by the import receptor. So it is recognized by means of the import receptor, and this import receptor is moved towards the translocon, and the further protein translocation is carry on. So let's see the mechanism of the protein translocation across the outer membrane and inner membrane of the mitochondria. So you can see here in the first diagram, you can see here this import receptor which is moving towards the uh, TOM complex, and after that this translocon, from this translocon these proteins are start to enter into the this particular intermembrane space. So when these proteins pre-sequence reaches to the intermembranous space, this intermembranous space having the proton gradient. So this having the proton gradient, and also this pre-sequence having the positively charged pre-sequence, that is positively charged amino acid, that is lysine and arginine. So with the help of this proton gradient and this positively charged pre-sequence, they both enter into the matrix. So as these proteins or the polypeptide chain or the imported protein enters into the matrix, there are the mitochondrial HSP7s are binded on this particular importing proteins. Okay, so these HSP17, which also having the same function homologous to the cytoplasmic HSP17, they keep or maintain the unfolded state of this protein, and then you can see at the last these proteins are enter into the matrix, and after the entry of this polypeptide chain into the matrix, this pre-sequence is get cleaved by means of the matrix processing peptidase. They perform the function of cleaving this pre-sequence, and this pre-sequence get separate out from the original polypeptide chain. After this original polypeptide chain, from this polypeptide chain, mitochondrial HSP17 get removed out into the matrix, and HSP16 and the HSP10, they are help to acquire the proper folded state. So at the last, these mitochondrial proteins acquire their proper folded state and perform their function into the matrix. Then all the imported protein cross the TOM complex. Out of these all the proteins, some protein remain kept into the intermembrane space as like the cytochrome C. So such type of proteins does not require the pre-sequence. So this is the one unique example. So the proteins which are having the function in the intermembrane space, they does not require the pre-sequence, but some proteins, they are inserted into the intermembrane. Such kind of proteins proceed the entry into the matrix and then localized into the intermembrane. So such intermembrane proteins of the inner membrane, they firstly enter into the matrix. And then enter into the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So in such case, such a protein, they require the two pre-sequences or the two signal sequences. one for the matrix. So this is for the matrix, and again this green colored pre-sequence. So when these particular proteins uh, enter into the matrix, this pre-sequence for the matrix get cleaved, and then this green colored pre-sequence that helps to localization of this protein into the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So this is the all about the mitochondrial uh, translocation of the proteins. So let's start the protein targeting in the chloroplast. So as we know, so chloroplast also having the double membrane structure. So this is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane. In between this membrane, outer and inner membrane, there is a intermembranous space also there. This both the membrane enclose the stroma, and this stroma having the thylakoidal membranous systems. This also having the extra chromosomal DNA, that is the extra chromosomal DNA, and ribosome assembly also there. So ribosome, so they can synthesize their own protein by itself, but they are not totally independent. They are somewhat dependent for the protein on the nuclear genome also. So that's why this chloroplast also, it is the semi-autonomous cell organelles. Most of the proteins are synthesized in the cytosol by the nuclear and then transported into the stroma or the thylakoid lumen of the chloroplast. Then mechanism of the protein translocation of chloroplast, it is similar to the mitochondria. So as we know, in the stroma there is a Calvin cycle is performed, and in the presence of the Rubisco enzyme. So Rubisco, it is the prime enzyme of this reaction. So Rubisco is consist of the large subunit and small subunit. The large subunit of the Rubisco enzyme encoded by the chloroplast itself, but small subunit of the Rubisco enzyme which is encoded by the nuclear genome and synthesized in the cytosol and transported into the chloroplast. So without a combination of this small subunit and large subunit, the active Rubisco is not formed. So for the preparation of the active Rubisco enzyme, the small subunits and the large subunits combination is required. So these small subunits are synthesized in the cytosol and then transported into the stroma. So you can see there is a structure of the chloroplast is there, and let's start the mechanism of the stromal protein translocation. So as we know, so after the synthesis of the proteins, these proteins is released into the cytoplasm. Okay, but this chloroplast having the outer membrane is there, then inner membrane is there. In the inner membrane space, intermembrane space also there. Also, as similar to the mitochondria, this outer membrane of the chloroplast also having the this polypeptide import sequence. Import receptor is there. So import receptor is there. When this import receptor get bind with this receptor reaches toward this protein translocon. So as similar to this mitochondrial Tom and Tim complexes. So chloroplast also having the TOC complexes and TIC complexes. So TOC is stands for the translocon of the outer membrane of the chloroplast, and TIC is stands for the translocon of inner membrane of the chloroplast. So this TIC and TOC and TIC complex, they are the playing an important role in the translocation of the protein. So as we have discussed, after the synthesis, the HSP17, that is the cytoplasmic HSP17, get bind on this polypeptide chain and maintain the unfolded state of the this polypeptide chain and prevent them from the misfolding. As similar to the mitochondrial targeting protein, they having the N-terminal signal sequence. In this protein also there is a N-terminal stromal sequence is present. So this stromal sequence is recognized by this receptor, and after that this overall polypeptide chain is start to the translocation in the stroma. So this is the, you can see this polypeptide chain is started to translocation into this chloroplast stroma. So in the stroma, when this stroma is reaches to the when this polypeptide chain reaches to the stroma, the stromal N-terminal stromal sequence is get cleaved. The stromal as similar to the mitochondrial MPP, that is the matrix processing peptidase. So after that, cleaving this stromal targeting sequence, that is the N-terminal stromal targeting sequence, this protein acquired their folded state. So after the folding, this small subunit of the Rubisco get combined with the large subunit and forms the active Rubisco and perform the Calvin cycle. Then some proteins of the chloroplast, they are also imported into the thylakoidal membrane. So thylakoidal membrane, so such protein require the two signal sequence, one for the stroma and second for the lumen of the thylakoid. On the basis of the pathway of protein translocation in the thylakoid lumen, there are two types of pathways there, that is the SRP dependent pathway and pH dependent pathway. So let's see all these SRP dependent pathway and the pH dependent pathway one by one. So firstly, SRP dependent pathway. So in SRP dependent pathway, so these proteins which are required into the thylakoid lumen, they are having the two signals, two targeting sequence, one for the stroma. So this is for the stromal sequence. So you can see this is the stromal sequence, and this is the thylakoid lumen sequence. Once with the help of translocon, that is the TIC and TOC, and also there is a special structure which is not present in the mitochondria. This is the 5 transmembrane proteins, which helps into the translocation of the polypeptide chain. So in the intermembranous space there is no proton gradient is present. So in mitochondria intermembrane space proton gradient helps into the translocation, but in case of this chloroplast there is no proton gradient is present. So that's why what's happened, this function is performed by the HSP17. So HSP17s are binded, so cytosolic HSP17s are binded. So for the removal of this ATP dependent HSP17, their ATP hydrolysis is required. And when the ATP is utilized, then these chaperones or the HSP17 chaperones get dissociated. But when this ATP is hydrolyzed, that helps in pulls this particular polypeptide chain into the stroma. In stroma, there also presence of certain HSP17. They also hydrolyze the ATP and bind with the proteins, and again due to the presence this hydrolysis of this ATP, this overall protein can be inserted into the stroma. After the once this thylakoidal protein reaches to the stromal targeting sequence is get cleaved, and after that this thylakoidal lumen protein, they having the thylakoid targeting sequence which is recognized by the SRP. This SRP, it is similar to the secretory pathway SRP. So in secretory pathway there is a signal recognizing protein is there. So in similarly in this chloroplast for the thylakoid protein there is a SRP protein is there. So this thylakoid lumen targeting sequence is recognized by this SRP protein, and this thylakoidal protein and SRP complex is formed. After that this thylakoidal protein and SRP complex is reaches to the SRP receptor. So this is the chloroplast SRP receptor. Then this SRP receptor translocate towards the this one translocon of the thylakoid membrane, and after that this overall protein or the polypeptide chain, they get enter into the thylakoid lumen. So this is called as the SRP dependent pathway. So in SRP dependent pathway, so this SRP is very important, and SRP recognize this thylakoid targeting sequence, and the translocation of this thylakoid protein takes place. The second pathway of the thylakoidal protein, that is the pH dependent pathway. So in pH dependent pathway there is a what's happened after the once this thylakoidal protein reaches to the stroma, the stromal sequence is get removed from the this polypeptide chain, and then this thylakoid targeting sequence having they get combined with the metal binding protein. So in stroma there is a presence of certain metal binding proteins. So these are the proteins molecules, they are having the bounded metals. So these metals are having the certain charge on it, they get bind with the imported thylakoidal proteins. So this imported thylakoidal protein get bind with the this metal binding protein and forms the metal binding protein and lumen proteins or the thylakoid protein complex. So after that in the thylakoidal protein there is a one channel is there. So through this channel this overall protein complex or the metal binding protein complex get enter into the thylakoidal lumen. So thylakoidal lumen having the acidic pH due to the presence of the H plus gradient. So H plus proton gradient present in the thylakoid lumen. So due to this presence of H plus proton, the pH of this particular thylakoid, it is the acidic. So this pH also helpful to the translocation of this particular uh, metal binding protein and lumen protein complex. So this metal and this overall protein is attracted by means of this pH, and this overall lumen protein enters into the thylakoidal lumen. So this is about the pH dependent pathway. So these are the two pathways of the chloroplast. Then next starts the protein targeting into the nucleus. So nucleus also required certain proteins. So in nucleus there is a transcription processes takes place. So in transcription of the gene they require the transcription factor, and these transcription factors are nothing but they are the protein molecules, and they perform the expression of that particular gene. So these transcription factor are synthesized in the cytoplasm of the eukaryotic cell, and then they are transported into the nucleus through the nuclear pore complex. So proteins to be imported into the nucleus, they are called it as the cargo molecule. So proteins to be imported into the uh, nucleus, they called it as the cargo molecules. So these cargo molecules having the nuclear localization sequence or the nuclear localization signal. Okay, so for example, this is the uh, nuclear localization sequence. So in nuclear localization sequence there is a 2 prolines, 4 lysines is there, and also alanine, lysine and valine is there. So you can see in this nuclear localization signal or the sequence, there this sequence, it is the lysine rich. Okay, so carboproteins or the cargo molecules are interact with the soluble proteins which are present in the cytoplasm, that is called as the importin. So importin and another also proteins is present there, that is the RAN GTP. So RAN GTP. The other proteins also involved in the co-regulation of the translocation of the uh, cargo molecules or the cargo proteins into the nucleoplasm, that is the guanine exchange factor which is present in the nucleoplasm and the guanine activating protein. So guanine activating proteins, that is the GAP, which is present in the cytoplasm. So RAN protein exists into the two forms, that is the RAN GTP and the RAN GDP. So RAN GDP, it is active in the cytoplasm, while the RAN GTP is active in the nucleoplasm. Then translocation of the cargo proteins occur through the NPC, that is the nuclear pore complex. So this is the structure of the nuclear pore complex. So this nuclear pore complex having the cytoplasmic ring. When these cargo proteins and this importin protein complex get contact with this nuclear pore cytoplasmic ring, this nuclear plasmic ring can increase their size, and through this uh, through this cargo protein can enter. So the size or the diameter of this nuclear pore can increase or decrease by with the help of the conformational change in the this NCP complex, that is the nuclear pore complex. So this nuclear pore complex can decrease or increase their diameter. So due to this, these cargo molecules which are somewhat folded in state but inactive in form, they are always acquire the activeness into the nucleoplasm. So so they can translocate translocation of this cargo protein occurs through the NCP. Then so it is the mechanism, it is the mechanism translocation of cargo protein. So you can see here, so this is the cargo proteins which having the nuclear localizing sequence NLS, N terminal nuclear localizing sequence. So they forms the such type of structure. So this is the cargo protein. Most of the transcription factors are involved in the follow this pathway. So in the cytoplasm, this cargo protein molecule is present. So in this cytoplasm, there is a one important protein is there. So you can see there is a important protein. So important protein. So this important protein is get bind on this particular nuclear localizing sequence which recognized by this important protein, and this important protein is get bind with this cargo protein. After that, this cargo protein enter into the nucleoplasm. Okay, but this nucleoplasm and important protein complex, which is not favorable for the uh, that cargo protein, because whenever this important protein is binded with this cargo protein, that cargo protein can't perform their function. So there is a one RAN GTP is present. So there is a another protein is present, that is the RAN GTP is present. This RAN GTP with the help of guanine exchange factor, they get bind with this important protein. So you can see the important proteins get bind with this RAN GTP, and uh, due to the binding of this RAN GTP, RAN GTP RAN GTP, the conformational change of this important protein takes place, and this important protein get separate from this cargo protein, and this cargo protein gets separated, and this cargo protein can perform their function of the transcription factor, and they can bind on the promoter region of the gene. So and they can express the gene. So this is the translocation of the important into the uh, nucleoplasm. So in nucleoplasm now, what is the destination of this important and the RAN GTP? So RAN GTP complex. So what's happened? See, so this RAN GTP and important protein comes into the cytoplasm from this nuclear pore, that is the nuclear pore complex. So once this nuclear pore is complex, which is uh, from this nuclear pore complex, this RAN GTP and the important proteins are uh, comes out. But for the but this RAN GTP, it is the component of the nucleoplasm. So this RAN GTP to have to re-enter into the nucleoplasm. So there is a cytoplasm having the guanine activating protein. So they convert the GDP to GTP, and this RAN GTP get converted into GDP. Now this GTP can re-enter into the nucleoplasm, and again this is free to perform their function. So this is the overall mechanism of the translocation of the cargo protein in the nucleoplasm. So I hope you are understand this overall mechanism. So one important point is that in this cargo protein there is a nuclear localization sequence which is not cleaved by the plasm peptidase. So it remains stay in this condition in this nucleoplasm. So then next and last point is that is the protein targeting in the peroxisome. So you can see here. So peroxisome, it is the small and single membrane organelle. It is the single membrane organelle. The peroxisome lacks the DNA and ribosome like mitochondria and chloroplast. So peroxisome lacks the DNA and ribosome. So totally depend on the nuclear genome for the proteins. So peroxisome having the so many different enzymes like catalase produce the H2O2, that is the hydrogen peroxide. The catalase have the peroxisomal targeting sequence, that is also known as the PTS. The one special thing or the unique thing, this peroxisomal targeting sequence of the catalase enzyme which is present at the C terminal. While there are another enzymes also there, such as the thiolase enzymes is there. So thiolase enzymes having the peroxisomal targeting sequence called as the PTS2 at the N terminal. Then in cytoplasm there is a one PEX-PEX5 subunit which recognize the this peroxisomal targeting sequence, and with the help of the PEX5 receptor and the translocon which is present on the peroxisomal membrane, these proteins or this catalase protein can enter into the peroxisome. In peroxisome, some protein may enter into the folded state. The mechanism of the translocation of peroxisomal protein is discovered through the studies of the during the study of the one syndrome, that is the Zellweger syndrome, caused due to the mutation of the peroxin gene. So these proteins which is this peroxin which is responsible for the biogenesis of the peroxisome. So during this study of this syndrome, the mechanism of the protein targeting of the peroxisomal protein is find out. So let's start the mechanism of the translocation of the peroxisomal protein. So this is the cytoplasm. This is the peroxisomal membrane. Peroxisome membrane, and in after the synthesis of this peroxisomal protein, this peroxisomal protein having the PTS1, that is the peroxisomal targeting sequence, that is PTS1, present at the C terminal. So this PTS1 is recognized by means of this PEX5 protein which is present in the cytoplasm, and PEX5 and protein targeting sequence, peroxisome targeting sequence complex is formed. So after that, this PEX5 reaches to the PEX receptor is there, that is the PEX14 receptor, and with the help of this PEX14 receptor, this peroxisomal protein get binded with this uh, membrane of the thylakoid membrane. After that, this peroxisomal protein get started enter into the peroxisomal matrix. So peroxisomal matrix. So in peroxisomal matrix, this protein enter in with the help of this translocation. So this translocation, it is made up of the so many different uh, uh, subunits, that is the PEX10, then PEX2 and PEX12. So after that they can acquire their folded state and perform their function. So it is about the uh, translocation of the peroxisomal protein. So it is all about the non-secretory proteins pathway or the cytosolic protein pathway. So we will stop here. So thank you. So thank